Alright guys, welcome back. Now our ship for our side-scrolling shooter can move around easily enough. Now we need it to be able to shoot, so it can shoot at our enemies, slay them all, bring us glorious prizes and points. So, in order to do this, I'm probably going to split this into two parts. The first part being just how to make your ship shoot generally, and then the second part will kind of explore kind of more in depth and sort of show the different kind of options we have for like making it so holding down the button will shoot over time, so we don't have to keep pressing it, and how to change how our bullets like move around and shoot and all that kind of thing. So sort of a slightly different approach to how we did it last time, because last time I just kind of went through everything all at once. So I'm just going to kind of split this down into two parts, where first of all we just cover the basics, and then second of all, for those that are interested, we go a bit more in depth and we add a bit of polish and change things up a bit. So on a very basic level then, we just want to make our ship shoot every time we press, say, I don't know what button we should use. We'll go with the spacebar, I guess. Spacebar works. I was going to say shift, but people tend to hate it when you use shift and it creates the sticky keys pop up on Windows. You can disable that, but I don't know, some people have a problem with it, so we'll go with the spacebar. I've already created an object here on my obj_bullet, which we're going to use for shooting. If you don't know anything about objects, naming conventions, or sprites like that, please refer to my very first video on Game Maker Basics, because you really should know all this stuff by now. So, we already have the bullet here, and we have a very, very simple sprite that's just like a little blue laser, and I just want to show you where I've put the, it's very hard to see on there, but I put the origin of this bullet to be this bottom center pixel here, because it's only 3 pixel wide sprite, so I'll put it dead in the center here, because if you remember, our origin decides, the exact coordinate of our object on the screen. So putting it here and then place will allow us to sort of make sure the bullet isn't sort of inside our ship when it fires, because we're going to create the object like on top of our ship. So put the origin right to the bottom of the laser there. So now we have this object. We basically need to make it so every time we press the spacebar, we create that object. That's the very first thing we need to do. So if we go into our object player over here and go to add event, keyboard, space, there we go, space, although no, we don't want space, because that will do it every time we hold the object, so it would create a laser every single frame that we're holding spacebar, and that's definitely not what we want right now. So keyboard, we want to go to key press even, yeah, that's the one we want, key press space, so every time you, like, the game detects that space is pressed and it wasn't pressed the frame before, meaning you just pressed it. So like it's checking spacebar every frame. It's seeing like 0 0 0 0 0, and then suddenly it sees 1 because you've pressed the spacebar, and it knows that the frame before was you weren't pressing the spacebar, so it triggers a press and it triggers these actions. So now if we're working with drag and drop, all we need to do is go to create instance, and we want to create this our origin on our player should be like in the dead center of the object, I think, if I remember. So x0 seems right. I'll tick this relative box here, so where the coordinate is related to the player object. So, and set our object to object bullet. Our x can be 0 because that means it's going to spawn dead in the center of our player. But our y should be something like, I think the object is 32 by 32, so if we type minus, not 26, 16 into that should create the object, the laser where we want it to be, which is sort of just at the sort of dead center point, like at the top here. That's where we're looking to make that. So yeah, as you can see here, our origin is 16 by 16, so x0 and minus 16 should be right here. And as we can see from the origin of our bullet, our origin is at the bottom, so it should sort of create it just sort of sticking out of the top there. So I mean, let's see exactly how that one looks. So our standard movement, and now if we press space, you can see we're starting to create bullets, and you can notice the obvious problem that the bullets aren't actually going anywhere. So that's what we'll look into doing next. So now that we're creating those objects, what we need to do is make it so that when this object is created, which if you've been paying attention you'll already know how to do, is go to events and go to create. So on our create event, when the object is created, we need to start this object moving. So using drag and drop, that's simple enough. Using move fixed, stick it direction up, and say speed, want it to be fairly fast, I guess, so 8. Okay, and then that's pretty much it, because we set a speed there, so that speed is going to stay at 8, so every frame the bullet is going to move 8 pixels up. Now what we also want to do is make it so we don't infinitely generate these bullets forever, and that when they pass over the top of the screen, we get rid of them, because the game doesn't need them anymore, so they're a complete waste of memory at that point. So if we go to add event, and I think it's other outside room, so this event will trigger whenever an object, not when any object, even whenever this object leaves the room, these actions will trigger. And then simply enough, we want destroy instance. That's in drag and drop anyway. I'll show you that one just because it's a single line of code actually. If we delete that and we just go to our control code, and we bring our apparently massive execute code browser up, all you need to do here is type instance destroy. I'm trying to be as quiet as possible on my mega loud keyboard. Probably doesn't come across that way, but it is very difficult to be quiet on this thing. So instance destroy, open bracket and close bracket, because it's a function without any arguments to pass over, so we just close the brackets instantly. And then optionally, you don't even need that, but like it's cleaner to put a semicolon there just to tell the game that that's the end of the line of code. Tick. So then that should work pretty much straight away. Yep. So now every time we press space, you're shooting some lasers, and as you can see, they're spawning in the right place. They're moving up to the top of the screen, and then every time they're passing over the top of the screen, they go away, and they're destroyed, and they're completely removed from the game. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do that. We can change this here. We don't need to use an action here. We can use GML instead. It's very, very simple. All you need to do is delete this, replace it with code that, if you remember from our movement tutorial, we just need to set our v-speed to be equal to -8, because we're moving upwards, so we're lowering our v position, or our y coordinate, sorry. So we're moving negatively in vertical direction, so we want -8, and then that's exactly pretty much the same as what we just did a second ago, so semicolon there as well. Okay, compile, exactly the same, no change. So yep, that's pretty much everything you need to know there. Oh, and this one as well, we can convert this to GML really quickly as well, creating the instance. Again, it's just one line of code, instance underscore create. You can find all of these functions just by hitting, I'll show you this now actually. If you just hit F1, you'll bring up the help menu. If you go like into the index, for example, like every single line of code is, like every function and everything like that is in here. All sorts of information you can get from here when you're learning the coding and stuff. So I mean, you can find all of these little functions and things that, like, obviously I'm just sort of pulling out of nowhere at the moment. You can find them in the help menu. So instance create bracket, and then we just type in the coordinates. It's already assuming it to be no, it's not even. What am I talking about? I was going to say it's assuming it to be relative, but it's not. What we want to do to make it relative, because obviously if we type something like 50 in here, that would put it 50-50 on the screen. So obviously we want it to be relative to our object, but we don't like tick a flag or anything for that. We just reference the coordinates of the object. So we type x, which is equal to the x coordinate of our player object, because this is the object we're running the code in. So we want it to be our x, as we discussed before, and we wanted it to be our y coordinate -16. So that, as you might have guessed, y -16. And then the object we want to create is obj underscore bullet. Close bracket, semicolon, and that's simply how you do that. And then if we hit F5, press space, exactly the same. Shooting. So yeah, in part 2 we'll go over sort of some more tricks for that, because at the moment we're having to press space every time to fire it. So I'll go over how to make it so you can hold down the space bar to like continuously shoot, like every like 10 frames or something like that. I'm going to show you how to like adjust the sort of pattern, the way it shoots, make the bullets wave around if you really needed them to, or how to shoot at a specific location. you know, all those kind of things we'll investigate in more detail in part 2 of the shooting tutorial, which will be shooting advanced, I guess. And that is pretty much shooting basics. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that, hope you learned something from it, and I'll catch you next time, guys.